Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
Days that just go wrong, make you wanna holler and shout and throw your hands up in the air, wondering what it's all about. And you think that things can't get much worse in a second, oh, everything just goes south. Keep on keeping on, whatever don't kill you makes you strong. Don't you worry, it won't be long. Darkness comes before the dawn. I tell you one day at a time, with God's grace you're gonna be fine. You got what it takes down inside. Road ain't alone. Keep on keeping on. Some people will stand in your way. They're always saying what you cannot do. Don't stop chasing your dreams. Working hard to make them come true. Oh. And if it ever gets too tough, just remember your faith will always see you through it. Keep on keeping on. Whatever don't kill you makes you strong. Don't you worry, it won't be long. Darkness comes before the dawn. Take it one day at a time. With God's grace, you're gonna be fine. You got what it takes down inside. The road ain't alone. Keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. Whatever don't kill you makes you strong. Don't you worry, it won't be long. Darkness comes before the dawn. I'll take you one day at a time. With God's grace, you're gonna be fine. You got what it takes down inside. The road ain't long. Keep on. Road ain't long. Keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. Oh yeah. Keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you strong. This is Contending for Truth Radio, American Sovereignty Radio Show tonight with Jennifer Montrose down in Alabama. Generally with us, Dan Wilson down in Florida, but he is off for the night, so we have substituting him for him, our Saturday host, Glenn Atkinson, here in the Dallas area with me, here on American Sovereignty Radio. We're going to have a great show tonight. I am looking forward to this. We're going to talk about grassroots tonight a lot. And the reason why Jennifer Montrose and I are the very close friends we are, is because we begun a trek here about 4 years ago about this time, a little bit over 4 years ago, called the Cane Train. And Dan Wilson, of course, we have met along the way on the Cane Train, and Glenn Atkinson. But Jennifer Montrose and I were in a group, an organization of individuals, of activists called Team Cane. And I was the California State Director. Jennifer, were you the Alabama State Director?
Co-chair.
You were the co-chair.
Yep.
And, we were connected by this great network of people, and basically the connections that Mr. Cane gave us the ability to have created a mighty grassroots organization. And that grassroots organization raised an incredible amount of money, brought Mr. Cane single-handedly, it wasn't anything he had, but brought them single-handedly through the grassroots efforts, through the fastest rise in name recognition in the history of U.S. presidential politics. He rose from like 15% to like 70% over a period of a few weeks. And that was before CPAC, when the news media took over and took him the rest of the way. But we learned so much, and since then, there was a day that awful time, that Saturday, when Herman Cain said he was no longer going to be running for president. But he told all of those who had been helping him, many of us like me, for the very first time, to ever do anything like be an activist and be a grassroots part of a grassroots effort for something. He said, "Go local," and we did. And many of us took it very seriously. Jennifer and I both have worked on numerous local campaigns, everything from school boards, which are very, very important, or city council can be very important, state elections, oftentimes more important than the federal elections. And we've seen a lot. We have seen a lot, and we've learned a lot. And we network now, and we get to know new people. And one of the candidates that Jennifer and I have both supported for a very long, long time now is J.D. Winteregg. And J.D. Winteregg has got also an incredible team, an incredible grassroots team. Some on the ground there in Ohio in the 8th District, some in Alaska. I know one I can think of in Alaska, Jennifer. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. He's got them here. I'm here in Texas, and have been and was in California supporting JD. And when we look at the grassroots discussion, and we can't leave out Eric Cantor and David Brat, because it was so big. It happens a lot, but it was so big and it was so front and center when David Brat, using a fraction of the money, but a mighty grassroots team, toppled a very powerful incumbent up on Capitol Hill. We saw it here in Texas. Yeah, I love my friend Bob Hall, Senator Bob Hall here in Texas, running against Bob Deuel, who was a John Boehner. He started out all right, but he slowly but surely, as time went on, just got involved in the system. And Bob Hall, boy, hard one when you got a Bob against Bob. But Bob Hall broke out these great, beautiful orange shirts with Bob Hall on it, and everybody wore them everywhere. We won it, and we beat the incumbent. And we see it happening in different places. We've got some different races going on right now that look very, very positive. We've got Matt Lynch up there in Ohio as well that is running. And what we have found is if you can get a team, a grassroots effort, with a ground game and kind of a social media connect game of people that can do things that don't necessarily live real close, and you get them moving forward, and you get momentum with it, and you get a candidate that can inspire them, like David Brat did against Eric Cantor, then you can have a 60-40 race where you throw out an incumbent. J.D. Winteregg has momentum right now. I'm going to tell you, he's got an incredible path to win. And it is going to be 1% fundraising. It is going to be 99% team effort to push JD across the finish line. And we're going to do it. We've been trying to do this for a long, long time, haven't we, Jennifer Montrose?
We sure
and Glenn,
have.
I know you too, as well, have support JD wholeheartedly, wrote articles. We're going to take this across the finish line. But so this is going to be kind of one of those shows that's kind of more like Jerry Lewis Telethon. I'm going to be doing a lot of begging because Charlie's the field director. And we're going to talk about what a field director does, but basically Charlie is going to be smack dab in the middle of all the volunteers. And so we need to make the crowd that Charlie is in very big because Charlie's very tall. He's kind of like King Saul in the Old Testament, stood a foot above everybody else. He can deal with a lot of volunteers. So we want to get a lot of volunteers. And so we're going to be asking, first thing I want to ask everybody to do is go to JD's website, jdwinteregg.com. The link is right there in the description on the show page. If you go down there and see JD Winteregg, you can see it's highlighted. Click that. It'll take you to the web page. And log in. Let me tell you, folks, log in. I know the guy's running the site, okay? And I'm going to tell you, this is the latest technology available being used right now for the J.D. Winteregg campaign. And you want to go to that website, and you want to go check it out. And you want to log in with Facebook or Twitter, and you want to see what that website will do because it's fascinating. It is fascinating what these guys are doing. And so I want everybody to go. If you are close, if you are in Ohio, and you can come over there and door knock with Charlie or stick out signs or do whatever you're going to do, let's get it. Maybe you're in Alaska, and you can tweet and you can Facebook and you can get on the phone and make some phone calls for JD, and you can look for some money, whatever you can do, because it's going to take a team effort to do this. And we're going to do it. I know it's a little bit longer introduction than I normally do, but where's Ed McMahon? I need my Ed McMahon. I'm going to be begging you tonight, folks. I want this show to inspire you to get involved to help push JD over the finish line. JD's in a really good spot, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to bring Charlie in first. You're the field director, and you're doing a great job. Let me tell you, Charlie, I have been impressed for a long time because you're busy, and you just keep going. You're like the Energizer Bunny, man. And you have been all over the place, helping JD all you can. You're busy in other things. So I want to kind of just throw it to you, kind of introduce yourself to us. Tell us, I'm going to ask you my elevator question. Here's my elevator question to throw in here with kind of tell us about things. When you were a little kid and you were out playing in the garage, did you want to be a field director for a political campaign, or where are your goals in life? Do you want to go into politics? What does Charlie want to do? And I'll throw that in there with you with a little bit of tell us about yourself, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Scott. I appreciate you letting me on, and it's not my first time on the radio because I've been in politics, involved grassroots wise for a couple of years, and done things here and there with some good organizations like Focus on the Family and others. But, when I was a kid and I was playing in the garage, like you said, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a mailman, wanted to be a basketball player, wanted to be a NASCAR driver. But it wasn't until my first year of high school. I'm from the Cincinnati area, and I drove down to LaSalle High School for my freshman year. Only stayed there for 1 year, but during that year I started getting involved. It was right after Obama got elected. And every morning I would drive down. It was about a 40-minute drive with my dad, and we'd talk politics. We'd listen to WLW 700, listen to the radio. We'd be talking about politics. And And it was then I really started to develop my ideology and the ideas. And my dad didn't say anything. He'd let me listen, and I developed all those ideas myself. And, you know, as the years went on, those ideas developed, and I was inspired to really put the ideas into action. You know, it's easy to sit in front of Fox News or, you know, listen to the radio on your drive home from work and talk about these things and get involved that way. But it's another thing to be able to devote your time and your efforts and your talents, your treasures to help, you know, quality candidates get elected like JD. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. It was time for me to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And so last summer I decided to get involved as a volunteer. I just started writing some op-eds to the local papers. But now I find myself, you know, in a completely volunteer position, doing it full time. It feels like sometimes 27 hours a day. And I wouldn't give anything to do anything different. This is the best campaign. It's the only campaign I've worked on, but I can tell you that it'll be one of the best that I ever will work on. If politics is my forte, and it's something I do the rest of my life. I'm 20 years old. Like I said, I've not done this a whole long time, but I've had some training, and I think that, like you were saying, Scott, it's really the volunteers and it's the passion behind it. It's not the money anymore. People are tired of the money, and people are tired of the candidates and the incumbents who say one thing and do the other. And with a volunteer base like JD has, I know that he's not going to be one of those candidates. He's going to be somebody that talks the talk and walks the walk, just like I decided to do. So, you know, as I sit here and I think about all I've been through, you know, I wouldn't give anything for it because, you know, I don't get paid. This isn't for a paycheck or perks. It's because it's in my heart to help, and our country's in trouble. You know, we need to get back to our constitutional roots, one man, one woman marriage, you know, go so on and so forth. And it's in my heart to help, and, you know, that's all I can say, and I got to do what I can do while I'm single, while I'm in college, while I have the time to do this.
That is right. I really wish I had gotten involved in my 20s. I did a little bit. I went down to the Republican offices and made some phone calls a few times for George Bush at one point in my 20s. George Bush, the first George Bush. But I never really got out and really active until my late 30s. And it's... There's so much out there that needs to be done, Charlie, and you said it right. It's got to be done. We are in a fight. We are in a fight to hold our country back from going over the edge into socialism and atheism and a myriad of other things that go along with all that. And we're pulling back. We're trying hard. You know, the president, I didn't even watch it tonight. But just his advertisements, the smugness of that side. I do have hope, because we do know that a lot of Europe already went down this road for the most part and are coming back the other direction. They didn't like where they ended up. But we are in a fight for your children's future. And it really, J.D. Winteregg is an incredible illustration of the situation that if we fixed it, we wouldn't have any more problems again. We'd go back to the freedom that we had at one point in this country. And this is it. We use, Charlie, have you ever seen the Red Skelton Pledge of Allegiance, where he explains the Pledge of Allegiance? Have you ever seen that, Charlie?
I have seen that, yeah.
Okay. He's got a line in there, and we talk about this a lot here on Contending for Truth Radio on all of our shows. Glenn and Dan and I and Jennifer, we all have this discussion a lot. From the people to the leaders, not the leaders to the people. And I'm going to pull Boehner back into this, because you know what, guys? And here's the Jerry Lewis part, folks. Let me tell you, J.D. Winterregg has been fighting John Boehner, and J.D. Winterregg is the reason why John Boehner resigned, folks. You need to turn around and send J.D. Winterregg to Congress for that and that alone, because J.D. made John Boehner see the writing on the wall. But the reason why John Boehner is different from J.D. Winterregg is this. In our country, we do it differently than most countries have ever done it before. In most countries, the government is the master and the people are the slaves. We did it differently. Our founding fathers did it differently. Where our elected officials are public servants, we're the masters, they're the slaves. Now, see, I understand, and I know J.D. Winterregg. And John Boehner, you know J.D. Winterregg. Because J.D. Winterregg wants to go to Washington, D.C. to serve the people, to be a servant, to go represent them. John Boehner has been acting as a master. He views the constituents, he views the people of the United States of America as the slaves, and he's the master. He gets to make these decisions for everybody. That's the difference between J.D. Winterregg and John Boehner. Now, John Boehner, I know, is gone now. That's okay. We don't want to get another one in there just like John Boehner. You want the opposite. Now, J.D. Winterregg and I agree on probably 99.9% of the issues. That's not important. I love that part, but that's not important. The important part is when J.D. Winterregg goes to Washington, D.C., he's going to go there to be a public servant. And because of his character, because of his attitude, he is not going to be turned into a John Boehner. We need a lot of J.D. Winterreggs. I'm going to pass it back to you, and then Jennifer Montrose, I want you to run with it. After I'm going to pass it back to Charlie to comment on that. Then Jennifer, if you'll run with it, and then Glenn, I'm going to pass you around like I told you I would, Charlie. Pass you around the table. Let them have some dialogue with you. But I just want we're in a really good spot here, Charlie. I've been so confident the last few weeks, and we'll talk in a few minutes about the path to win that's going on here. But we've got a great opportunity here, don't we?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And, I wake up and I go to bed and I think about this campaign, and I'm filled with more hope each and every day. We might have our downfalls. We may not have a lot of money compared to the other candidates, but it's like you were alluding to earlier. It's the passion behind it. And, it's not just me. We have a whole team. We have people in every county of our districts who are willing to go out. They're willing to knock on doors, make phone calls, put bumper stickers on their car. It's just a little stuff like that makes a huge difference. And, like you were saying, JD is a different kind of candidate, and I wouldn't volunteer for anybody else like him because I know he's a genuine guy, he's convicted, and he's doing this for the right reasons. Like you were saying, we sent John Boehner down there to Washington in 1992 to do the people's work. Maybe he did it for a while, but he got corrupted. Maybe that happens to everybody. I talked to JD. He said he's only wishing to serve 12 years. He said after that, you start to lose touch. But he's also shown me in other ways that, he's a different kind of candidate. And one of those is his faith. He was endorsed by his pastor at his church, and we're looking to get some more endorsements here in the future from other pastors in the district. But I think that's just a testament to the different kind of candidate that JD is. Because not only is he pledging to do what all the other politicians say they're going to do but never end up doing, he's bringing faith back into the equation. God, I know, has a hand in this race, and he has a hand in this country. I don't think that he's neglected us permanently. I think that if we have more volunteers and we have more people stand up all across the country and support candidates like JD, whether it's in Congress or the Senate or the State House, I think God is going to come back to this nation. He's going to bless us again, and I'm convinced that we need those kind of candidates if we're going to turn our country around.
Definitely. Jennifer?
That is so true. That's so true. You know, I believe in 2016 that people are fed up with what we've had. They don't want the same usual stuff. We have a candidate down here in Alabama running for U.S. Senate. We've got a couple of that's been in the Senate for a long term, Senator Richard Shelby, and you know his voting record with the Heritage Action has been pretty solid these last couple of years. But he's just, you know, people are ready for people to, you know, these time for people to go, and we need some new. So they've got a couple of people, John McConnell and a few others that are running in that seat. But I think that what is really appealing to J.D. is his fresh, new appeal. This is not his first rodeo. He ran this last time, you know, and I think he's just been building momentum, you know, ever since. And once people start to realize, you know, when Boehner, you know, got out of Speaker of the House and began to get knowledge of who J.D. Wintereg is, it's been a win-win. I got to meet him in person at the National Federation Republican Assembly Presidential Purpose Endorsing Convention in Nashville this past August, and he got a chance to talk to some people in the crowd and was getting some really positive response. You know, not everybody knows you all over the United States, but, you know, any efforts that you get, you know, to try to make an impact, and that's what David Brat did, you know, but definitely, I mean, you know, grassroots ground game is really a big deal, and we've been able to see, you know, I mean, that's how, you know, Senator Cruz was able to win his first Senate election, you know, when he was given, you know, 2%. So it's definitely when you've got excited volunteers, enthusiastic, that are willing and ready to do whatever it takes, you know, you can do things like help a candidate win the Florida primary in the presidential election who has no name recognition. You know, we did that for Herman Cain. So, you know, but my hat's off to you. You know, so many people, you know, would not want to take that kind of a job on because it would be too challenging, you know, not being able to get paid. But being a patriot like you are and doing all the things that you have been able to do for JD and for the district is great. I mean, I think it's awesome, you know, and I think we need more patriots to step up to say, you know, because old school politics, you know, just doesn't seem to be cutting it much like it once did, you know, and because now you're having to do so much with you've got so much new technology out there, you know, and so I mean, you know, when you've got a war chest as big as Boehner does, what else do you have to do but to get an army that's willing to get busy, you know, all across the United States for your candidate and even local. So, but I would like to hear what are some of the interesting stories that you've run across that have been inspiring to you with your efforts, to seeing all this stuff build, the momentum build and grow.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked to a ton of different constituents from all walks of life. We talked to the Rue family up in Springfield, Ohio. They have their own potato chip business. And, you know, they're like everybody else in a different way. They're being bogged down by the government. And they've had to move some of their business over to Pennsylvania because the Ohio EPA wasn't cooperating. It was too expensive to do business. We've talked to, you know, it's the same story consistently, is that government is in the way. We're perfectly capable of taking care of ourselves, taking care of our communities, doing the things that government was never intended to do. And when we talk to these people, they're demoralized. They're on the verge of giving up. And we convince them otherwise. We say, no, the fight is still here. Look at this candidate. Look at all these candidates across the country. We're wanting to take our country back, but we have to have a unified vision and a unified message. And that's one thing that JD does really well, is messaging. He has a wonderful relationship with conservative media. He's worked in inner city schools. He's able to work with minority students, and he's got such a good background, and from his walk of life, he's got such good experience, which is ironically one of the complaints that we usually get on the trail is, oh, you're too young, you're inexperienced. Well, no. Look where experience has got us. It's got us $19 trillion in debt that our kids are going to have to pay off. It's got us into more wars than we can pay for. It's got us a bigger and bigger government when Republicans say they were going to limit government. The message is consistent wherever, whoever we talk to, is the government's in the way, and the Republicans that are supposed to be standing up for their constituents and for the country, they're empowering rather than standing in front and impeding this degradation into socialism. So, I say to the people listening, don't give up hope. There's tons of JDs out there. You got to find them, and you got to support them with your time, your talents, your treasure. You got to get the word out. This is grassroots. We're not going to have the war chest, like you said, Scott, that Boehner had. It's going to take a lot of effort. We're going to win. We're going to win some battles. We're going to lose some battles. But I always tell myself when I get up in the morning, I can't say that I didn't fight. It's on my conscience, and I can't say that I didn't fight, win or lose.
Glenn?
Well, that was very well put, very well stated, Charlie. Great to have you with us, and it's great to see the young people get involved like yourself. That's what this country needs a lot more of, and people like you getting involved with JD Winteregg and that it's a testament. It's awesome that you're getting involved so young, and you mentioned also a while ago about faith. And, I think that's what's the most important thing. Well, I know it is the most important thing. We have to have faith. It is the greatest country in the world, and I'm from Canada originally. So I'm Canadian and I'm American, of course, now. But, having stated that, we got to get back to repenting for what we've done wrong, first and foremost. And, with you bringing up the faith and whatnot, and everybody having to have that, having to have God back into everything. That's what this country's missing, and it's getting back there slowly but surely. But it's the youth, with that, getting people involved that are younger, because we've taken God out of so much, and the youth are missing that. And I think that people like yourself can actually help with that also. So. Good on you for that. I'm blessed to be speaking with you here because you're 20 years old, and like you say, you're not getting paid for this, not monetarily, but you're getting so much out of this, and you're being able to give so much for this too, and it's incredible. So thank you. I thank you and JD and everyone that's like you said, there's a lot of JDs out there, and I think that is what we need to do to bring down this. The Congress and the term limits, they need to be lowered and whatnot, because everybody's getting so long in the tooth, they get so corrupt, like you mentioned, that we need to get back to having the term limits, having more youth involved in this, and therefore the age in Congress and everything will go down too, and that alone, with all that, of course, with faith, having God and everything, that's what's going to keep everything honest and everything on track, or getting back on track. So again, thank you very much, Charlie.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Glenn. Speak volumes when you mention faith there. 33% of Christians vote. If we could just increase that just to 50%, I just can't imagine how much better our country would be. I mean, I think about that constantly. We have to vote our values, and we have to be willing, to turn the TV off, to do something that may be uncomfortable, maybe to throw $20 or $50 to a candidate here or there, and maybe it's to volunteer. There's all different kinds of ways to get involved, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be involved in the political field. You could be involved in educating kids about American liberty. I mean, it's natural for us as conservatives and libertarians to kind of be intrinsic and say, we just want to be left alone. We want to be with our communities and our families and live our life. But we've come to a point in our country where us as Christians, especially Christians, need to stand up and say, no, I want my country back, and it's time to put faith back into the public square.
Amen.
If you look at history, the biggest movements that have changed this country for the better have been driven by people of faith, pastors, priests, and we need that again. And I firmly believe that, you know, it may get worse before it gets better, but it's going to happen again. And I'm convinced that, you know, it's going to happen with pastors. It's going to happen with our state legislators. It's going to happen with Congress. And hopefully in 2016 it will happen with a good, godly president.
Well,
amen,
Charlie. And what I love is that that's coming out of a young person. And I'll tell you, Charlie, I put a lot of the blame of where we're at right now on our churches. And as a preacher, I put a big, huge part of the blame on our fellow preachers. You know, when we get into the issue of gay marriage, the reason, Charlie, that you have such a very hard time within your peers getting even conservatives among your age group to understand the importance of this issue is because they haven't heard in the pulpits for their lifetime that adultery and fornication are wrong. And we're suffering right now because the church hasn't been strong. And I'm so glad you brought out that only 33% of the Christians vote. That's Neil Mammon also uses that statistic, and it is saddening because let me tell you, folks, if the left takes us where they really want to go, the first people that are going to be socked in the face are going to be the churches.
Yeah.
So you better stand up and start voting, folks. You better start encouraging your preachers and your leaders to encourage the flock to vote because we are losing our religious freedom right and left. Even here in Texas, you know, we've got the dimwit mayor from Houston asking for sermon outlines from preachers. Let me tell you, folks, it is hugely important that we raise that number up from 1/3 of the Christians voting on up. It's so important. And you know, we do have to have a lot of JDs. Charlie, we need a bunch. And I'm involved in a good handful of campaigns, many of which are primarying somebody else. And we've got a good handful of JDs across the country right now, and there's more out there. And we just have to bring them up. We need to help them out, and we need to send them to Washington, D.C. You know, we talk about term limits a lot, and there's a lot of debate in term limits. I love the concept of term limits. However, you've also got lobbyists up there in Washington, D.C., and if you've got inexperienced politicians with experienced lobbyists, you've jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. The best way to take care of term limits is when we, the people, get behind people like JD and send them to Washington, D.C., instead of sending somebody that's going to go up there and play the political game. When we, the people, start picking statesmen instead of politicians, then we're going to accomplish the task, and we will keep fresh blood in Washington, D.C. And that's not to say, you know, there haven't been times when you've had one that was in there for 20, 30 years that really had quite a legacy, but it doesn't happen very often. Oh, this is where I want to go with next, Charlie. JD has got an incredible path to a victory right now. And I'm a firm believer that JD can do this 100% easily If the grassroots effort will get behind him, if the people that can donate will donate, if the people that can make phone calls will make phone calls, if the people that will do social media can do social media, the people that are on the ground can help you out with activities coming up and getting out and reaching the voters, all the things that need to be done, if the people will get out and do this, JD has got a really good shot of not just taking this, but taking this well. I'm going to tell you why. And Jennifer Montrose already brought this up, and this is very important. In the grassroots, we often talk about the farm game. It's a John LaRosa thing. You've got campaigns, the first time they don't win, but, man, they're sprouted up and they're ready to go. And they've already got donors, and they've already got some secured voters. They've also already got some grassroots people that are behind him. They've got the experience. They're not on the learning curve as much anymore. They've learned a lot of mistakes. They're ready to go. And when they come into the second run, it is generally a whole lot stronger. And that has been the case with JD. Things changed this last year when John Boehner really started losing support bad. In fact, he was challenged in Congress and found out he didn't have the votes and spent weeks trying to secure just his position there. And I believe he saw the writing on the wall. I believe they did some polling, and I believe they saw that the momentum showed that J.D. Winteregg was going to beat him. And I believe the Democratic Party was deathly afraid of that, because they know what they got out of Eric Cantor. Eric Cantor wasn't just replacing Eric Cantor. That election, when David Brat won that so big, it sent reverberations all over the country. So J.D. kind of resigned, and that was real. John Boehner resigned, and that was really kind of bad for J.D. in a way, folks, because in a way, John Boehner was the bad guy. That was, you remove that from the equation. Now he's just running, right? There's no John Boehner to attack. And so it's really hard on fundraising and stuff like that. It just, money isn't as strong. Grassroots efforts isn't as strong. And then what happens? You got all these people talking about jumping into the race. And I said very early on, we don't want one person or two people jumping in the race. We want like 50 jumping in the race. Because JD's already secured. He's ran 1.5 campaigns already. He's secured a lot of voters who were planning on voting against John Boehner and voting for JD. I don't think he loses a lot of those. And you'll have to tell me, Charlie, how many people are running now against JD. At one time, I thought it was up to like 20. Maybe that was speculation. I think it's like between 12 and 14 now. The main one that was running that had John Boehner's support backed out of the race a few weeks ago. Which, man, when you've got the rest of the vote all divided up like that, and you've got JD, who's had a solid campaign running for basically 3 years. The team of key grassroots behind JD's never really stopped. When we get to this point, we see what we call a path to the win. What's it going to take to get there? It is going to take making sure that every voter in Ohio 8 gets to see JD's face, gets to see JD's name, gets to find out who JD is, gets to understand that he's going to be the kind of person that goes to Congress and stays the same solid guy when he's there as he is on the campaign trail. That he's going back with the mentality of our founding fathers, that the Constitution limits government, doesn't ensure rights. Our Constitution doesn't ensure any rights. All of our rights are ensured. The Constitution was designed to hold government back. JD understands that. Our job, folks, is to make sure in whatever way we can to get that word out. But Charlie, you're there in Ohio. Now I'm part of Team JD, but I'm down here in Texas. I get to see what goes on, and we've got like a little cyber office, a little cyber campaign office that I come into every day, and I see kind of what's going on. But what's the momentum like there? How is everybody feeling about this? We're coming into the last weeks of the race, and I am sure that you feel like I do. We can really do this. We can send JD to Washington, D.C. How is it up there in that very cold Ohio?
Well, you're exactly right in terms of momentum. We got a ton of it. We're the only candidate that's been on the ballot in all 6 counties of the district. And, consistently when we talk to people, they look at JD and they're kind of starry-eyed. They say, hey, I found a candidate that I can trust, that I can support, and he's different from all these other guys that were suddenly inspired to represent the district as soon as Boehner decided to resign. They didn't fight the fight when it was hard. They fought it when it was easy. The only reason these guys jumped in wasn't to represent people. They didn't want to do the people's work. They didn't want to serve people. They want to climb the ladder of power. And people are sick and tired of that. And I'm personally convinced that this is the year of the anti-establishment party, liberty-minded, whatever you want to call it, kind of candidate. And I think it's a good combination of the environment that I see on the field every day, and it's the candidate, it's the environment, but it's also, I feel it every single day. People are waking up, they're realizing, hey, I may get robocalled by our opponent, and it's just a glazed over message. It's the we're going to support your traditional values and we're a good conservative, you should elect us. People don't buy that anymore. And so when all of our opponents start doing this, they're going to be drowned out not only by each other but by the presidential candidates. And the more people that jump in this race and try to gain this power position, the better it is for us, because people are going to realize that there was only one candidate that was willing to stand up and have the spine and challenge the guy who was empowering Obama and not stopping him like he said he was going to do. And I can tell you one thing, if JD doesn't get elected, which I think he will, and I know he will, there's going to be a Boehner 2.0 in that seat, and it's just going to continue all over again like it did in 1992. We're going to have a guy in there for the wrong reasons. He's going to say one thing and do the other. He's going to put on the show votes he's going to fold like a cheap tent like so many other of these candidates did when we elected them back in 2010. But I know that JD, and I can't say it enough, I know that JD isn't going to do that because he had the courage to stand up. And like you said, he's been running this campaign for 3 years. We've built a huge movement of volunteers, people who are willing to really sacrifice their time and money to put this guy in the place to take our country back. And, but we can't stop there. We have to always be vigilant. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance, is what one of our founders said. And I'm just reminded that every day that we have to be uncomfortable. That's the price that we have to pay as conservatives and libertarians. We can't submit. We always have to be vigilant. We have to be on the watch. We have to be willing to push incumbents out when they don't do what they say they were going to do. The hopes are good here in Ohio 8, and I think on the morning of March 16th, we're going to wake up and we're going to see a solid conservative, liberty-minded guy in there, and it's going to happen in other places around the country too.
Well, and there's one more piece, and then I'm going to throw it to you, Jennifer, and throw it around again. There's another piece to this, and I've said this for a long time. We saw this especially in 2012 when teams for a presidential primary person running, like Team Kaine or what Rand Paul was doing, the technologies were just starting to really come together. And we are at a point now where we have got the ability to do what Phyllis Schlafly did 50, 60 years ago in organizing people using a typewriter and a telephone. We've got everything so instant and so easy. And there are so many wonderful things going on out there. And I want to point out again, go to the website. You can connect with your Facebook. You can connect with your Twitter. And there are multiple things that can be done at that website. As well, multiple things that you can be helping Team JD do to help get the word out to as many people as possible. I can't tell you enough. That's why I didn't even include the links to the Facebook or the Twitter tonight. Only the link to the website. And go and log in with Facebook and Twitter and check around that website. Get to know JD. It's man, I can't say it enough. We need a lot of JDs, and we really need to win this one. This is an important one to win. The nation's watching this one. This one really is still JD against the establishment. And the nation's watching, and I agree with you, Charlie. This is the year of the anti-establishment. Man, I've really gotten to where I hate the word Tea Party. I don't mind when the left uses something, but when the right starts calling names in Tea Party, I hate when I get all that. I know what I am. I'm a very conservative Republican. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. I'm a Reagan Republican. But these... I think this is the year that a lot of people get primaried. And a lot of people get primaried by some really good blood that we're going to put back in Washington, D.C. And I think that, and I'm going to tell you, Ted Cruz, you have to bring him into this discussion as well. Jennifer, you mentioned him. He did the exact same thing. He beat powerful in Texas incumbent. Of course, he was then. David Dewhurst is really kind of weak these days. He's been beat up a few times since Ted Cruz, but which is good because he's kind of an idiot. But Ted Cruz understands the power of the grassroots, and I'm going to tell you, folks, is in a really good shot to push this forward. Him and Donald Trump to leave everybody else behind, and the two of them push through forward in this primary season. And I'm going to tell you, for the first time in a long time, I'm a firm believer that instead of ending up with an establishment candidate, we are going to end up with an non-establishment presidential candidate, one way or the other. Jeb Bush does not have a chance. And I really think this is going to be a great year. Jennifer, you have been probably at my side with you and I both on every project each other has done for the last 3 years, and you and I get to see some momentum. And we're seeing some things being done in the grassroots. We're seeing some things being done in campaigns, but we're also seeing some incredible people running, like Carl running for sheriff, different people around. It's going our way. What do you think, Jennifer? I'll pass it over to you.
Well, I'll tell you this. Just because you may not live in Ohio, don't think that it is not relevant to you, because when you've got members of Congress who vote to the left on bills and issues that are concerning us as American citizens, we need a solid conservative Congress. We need a solid conservative House of Representatives, and so when we end up electing establishment candidates, then you have what we had with Boehner all over again. Where they're, bowing down to compromising, making backroom deals, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and the American people are kind of like, kind of on the sidelines. And, we matter only if, it just seems like you get candidates that get in Washington and they seem to drink the water, and I have met JD, and he's not that kind of man, not the man that I met, and people are just tired of people that have been, in office, for 10 years or so, it's time, that we elect some, new conservative blood. We saw what happened when the American people rose up and they elected Ronald Reagan. Nobody expected that to happen. This is the year. That's why I think you're seeing such a change, and why more people are starting to pay attention. But I want to know, what's it been like reaching out to the people that don't normally follow politics, people that are not really actively engaged and, paying attention to what's on, the news and that sort of thing, reaching out to those voters that are really, trying to encourage them to go vote and get registered to vote, because that can be a struggle at times, trying to convince people that the time is now, that it's important. Charlie?
Yeah, absolutely. The time is always now. Like I said, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And when we talk to people, when we do door knocking throughout the week, and every once in a while we'll come and we'll talk to a previous Boehner supporter, and they'll say, "Yeah, I supported Boehner, but I'm kind of tired of him." And we say, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I supported him for a long time. I had a yard sign in my yard. I even donated to him. But I got to be honest, he didn't do the things he said he was going to do." And then, every once in a while we'll get a person that says, "I don't really know a lot about politics, but I sure as heck don't like the people that are in there now." And we say, "Hey, we're with you. We're the only candidate in this race that understands that mindset. We're tired of politics as usual, and we're tired of Republicans especially going up there and saying, 'Hey, we're going to make government smaller,' when they don't do it. No, we're interested in actually bringing government back to the state and local levels." JD is going up there, and he's trying to essentially he's trying to make his job easier. He wants to do less and less and less. He wants the government to play a lesser role. He wants you to be able to control your own life. And that really resonates with people, and that's why we are the only anti-establishment candidate in this race. And so, like you said, people are waking up. This is the year, and I think this is going to be the first domino to fall. And 2018, 2020, it's going to start happening. And I think we need to start paying attention to our state legislators too. James Madison talked about the power of nullification. I mean, our state legislators have a duty to not uphold the laws that the Supreme Court and Obama and Obama's executive orders. They have a duty to constitutionally to keep the American people safe and the constituents of their state safe from these unconstitutional legislative action. And so we need to start relying on state legislators more to do the things when our federal legislators aren't doing their duty. So I think we're going to reach a point where all levels of government, local, state, federal, they're going to, anti-establishment candidates are popping up, and it's going to go mainstream. Liberty has already went mainstream. You got your Rand Pauls and your Ted Cruz's out there. That shows me that there's hope for this country, and we're not going to go down without a fight.
Well, and you see what we're dealing with now with our Second Amendment rights that are being infringed upon greatly by our divider-in-chief up in D.C., on the Hill. So I know that carries over from state to state. So I know that's a real hot topic right now, especially, when we're seeing on a national scene, where he's talking about wanting to, do more background checks and, confiscate and more guns and all the things that lead to law-abiding citizens losing their right to bear arms. So, and I know JD is a solid, no compromise on the Second Amendment. But so how is some of that playing out, with in Iowa with on the campaign trail for you guys?
You said, how is it playing out?
Yeah, I know Second Amendment's a hot topic issue. I know in our state we look at our candidates that are running, and we want to know. You're running for U.S. Senate. We want to know where you stand on the Second Amendment on a national level. We've already kind of figured out who on a state level. It's a big issue.
Right. Yeah. Well, we go around and we talk to. We're going to be scheduling a tour of gun shops in the district soon, and those are some of the best supporters that we've come across. Is they're solid. You can't move them. They're rock solid conservatives, liberty-minded folks, and they know that the Second Amendment protects the rest. And like you said, JD's a solid Second Amendment supporter. And we can't say it enough that we have to protect our right to keep and bear arms. It's not for hunting. It's not for protection. It's for taking our country back. And if we don't stand up and take it back peacefully, there's going to come a point where people are going to get tired enough and our liberties are going to be taken away to such an extent that we're going to have to take it back by force. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. That's a Thomas Jefferson quote. And it couldn't be more right. You know, I hate to say it has to come to bloodshed, but eventually it's going to reach that point if we don't wake up. And the good thing is we are. But we always need to be vigilant. We need to practice our Second Amendment, you know, weekly. And we need to be armed. We need to protect our families. And we need to be willing to use those arms when God calls us to take back our liberties that he so rightly blessed us with and this country with. So
you're right, and we see what's going on in Oregon right now. You know, so protecting our liberties and our freedom is a really big thing. You know, it's very important, and I you know, it seems like there's a groundswell of activism that's out there now that's getting geared up to do whatever they need to protect our liberties and freedoms. Glenn, what say you?
Well, you're exactly right there, Jennifer and Charlie. You know, if we lose the Second Amendment, we've lost all of them. We lost everything because, as far as I'm concerned, that's the glue to everything. You know, we'll lose our First Amendment, we'll lose everything just because of that. So that it's of utmost importance that we get this Second Amendment solid, you know, in this country, because we're seeing all of what the administration now is trying to you know, basically steal that from us by all these regulations and all these layers and layers and layers of just getting in the way, you know, so we can't, you know, use that to our advantage. And that's the thing, is if we cannot lose that. And it's great to see that people are waking up to that. And even some people on the other side are too, and it's great to see. So, you know, that's, you know, with our youth understanding this too, and getting more involved, this is what we need, is because our children are our future, and if we can get them involved more and more in this grassroots and understanding of how important our liberties and freedoms are, and the Constitution, and first and foremost linked to God, then we have eyes opened, and people are waking up, and so therefore, you know, it's so important. It's so important, and I don't even know if a lot of people even realize how important that if we lose the Second Amendment, how much it infringes upon everything we have, because it's not even just about taking away guns and ammunition and whatever. It's all about control, and that's what this government, the elitists, that's what they want. They want to control us. And once they get rid of the guns, then they've got us. They've got everything pretty much. And same with the health care. You know, it comes down to it, you know, they control us through health care and through the Second Amendment. If they can control both of them, then we've lost. But a good thing is we are waking up, and we're seeing more and more of it. It's you know, gratefully for people like you, Charlie, you know, at your young age, getting involved. And that helps, because people see someone of your age getting involved, and that helps people around your own age group get involved too, because, you know, it helps them to understand, you know, that, you know, hey, you know, he's making a difference, you know, I can too, at any age, and it does start, you know, when you're young like you, because, you know, in 5 or 10 years, like you say, when you're married and whatnot, you know, then you got your kids that are coming into the mix, that, you know, you're striving for their future. So it just keeps going on and on. So anyhow, yeah, you know, it's amazing the connection that you're making with everybody, Charlie. I'm very impressed with it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, you know, I what I can say to the listeners, and what I tell people consistently is, you know, they say, hey, I can't make a difference. I'm just one person. I'm just one vote. And I say, it's not my quote, but you can, you know, if you don't think you can make a difference, you've never been alone in a room with just one mosquito. just think how much just chaos they can cause. Just one mosquito can bug the heck out of you for the whole night. And we need to be that pestery mosquito in the room of the establishment. And we need to multiply. We need to educate ourselves each and every day. We need to read. Turn off the TV for a while. Read the Constitution. Read some of the founder documents is what I try to do every day. And I think most of all we need to bow our heads in prayer and humble ourselves and pray that God takes our nation back and empowers good people like JD to do just that, and good pastors and good parents and good teachers and firefighters, police, and whatever all occupations need to bow their heads. All people need to bow their heads and pray that we can take our country back and we can return to the sovereign and best nation on earth that we once were, and to some degree still are, but we need some help, and we're not going to be able to do this alone.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Scott, are you there?
I sure am. And Charlie, I told you we'd only hold you for an hour, and it looks like we've come up through the hour, so I want to go ahead and start handing you back off. But I want to tell you, I appreciate all the hard work you're doing up there in Ohio. I am glad it is you, as I do not like the cold weather. I am a firm believer that you live in what should be called one of the Arctic states, where sometimes it's Mother's Day and it's still snowing up there. Although I will say here in Ohio is not as bad, as I got some friends up there in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. All I can say is they are nuts. But you're working hard. You're going back and forth across the district, going to school and doing all kinds of things, and have been an incredible addition to Team JD. And so glad that you're up there doing it. And looking forward, I've already told Rodney Lee Conover. Rodney Lee Conover is my boss with Joe the Plumber and with the Flip Side. But Rodney Lee Conover ran for Congress back a couple of years ago out in California, and he's talks back and forth about running again. And I've told him, well, if we do, we're hiring Charlie Miller. I've already told him that, and he's already said that is great. Because I am impressed. You're working hard, my friend. We appreciate productivity. You're getting some things done, and that's what's important. And you've got good teamwork out there on the ground. Got some great people up there on the ground working with JD and trying to get things done. And that's probably one of the hardest parts. Getting people to do things in their home is easy. Getting them to go out their front door to do something for a candidate is a lot more difficult. He's got a good team. So I want to pass it back to you for anything final that you wanted to throw out there. I want to remind everybody again, go to the website, jdwinteregg.com. You can find the link there in the show page. Go check out the website. Donate if you can. If you can volunteer in any way, volunteer if you can. Share something. Just go to Facebook. Share something about JD. Let people know he's still in the race. Ask your friends to donate. Maybe you can't donate, but you can ask some people to donate. Let's get him the money. I guarantee you it'll be used wisely. And with that, Charlie, I'm going to pass it back to you, my friend, and run with it. Anything else that you want to get said?
Yeah, I'll just say, hey, the cold weather isn't as bad as you make it out to be. I think people are a little bit more sympathetic when you knock on their door at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning and they say, what does this guy want? Hey, we just want to tell you about a quality candidate. Hey, I'm out here in the negative 14-degree wind chill temperatures because I care about our country. And that really, and I can't say it enough, that resonates with people. So the weather helps us a little bit, even though, our hands may not be in the best of shape when we get back in a couple hours later. But like you said, if you could drop us $15 or $20, that would be such a blessing to us. We're gonna use it to the best of its ability. We're gonna stretch it as far as we can. And one of the hardest things that I do as a field director, and as the many hats that I wear for the campaign, that I try to help JD out is raise money for him. So that's one of the hardest things I do is asking for money, but it's necessary. The volunteers are the fuel, but the money is the oil for the campaign. And so if you could drop us a few bucks, that'd be much appreciated for those who are listening. And tell your friends, tell your family, don't give up hope, and keep fighting for liberty, and God bless.
For sure. And Jennifer and Glenn, I want to give you an opportunity to say your last things to JD, and then we will let him go get some much needed. You're probably going to go study something, aren't you? You probably have enough work. So Jennifer, Glenn, I'll pass him around to you, and then we will let him go.
Thank you for coming on tonight. This has been great. It's very encouraging to hear such upbeat stories. And I know that it's been a long road to get to this point, and I just say anybody wants to see change, they have to help make that happen, and dollars do matter, $5 here, $10 there, it all adds up, and it could mean so much to being able to help get on the home stretch, to be able to win in the primary. And that's definitely a positive thing, and if you're not familiar, go on jdwintereg.com and check them out. So with that, I'll pass it over to Glenn.
Well, you're exactly right, Jennifer. People have to get involved. They really do. And thank you very much, Charlie, for joining us tonight. Anytime you want to come back, obviously that'd be a great thing. You're doing a great job. I can't emphasize enough. The youth. You're getting involved. You're not getting paid for this. But I'll tell you, it pays off in so many ways. I just can't thank you enough because I know it's going to reverberate to everybody around your age group and just shows people. It just takes a little bit of initiative. To keep involved and like you guys have been saying, go to jdwintereg.com and get involved. You don't have to be right in your state in order to get involved. We have so much technology at our fingertips to get involved. And, if you can donate, great. But donate your time and do what you can do. Make phone calls or whatnot. It's such an amazing thing to accomplish. We need to get J.D. Wintereg in there because he's a good man, and so are you. And thank you again, Charlie.
Hey, thanks to all of you for having me on, and my email is charles@jdwintereg.com. That's charles@jdwintereg.com if you'd like to send me an email, if you'd like to volunteer, and as always, feel free to contact me, anything that you might need. I'm at your disposal for the Liberty Movement and to take back our country. So, thanks again for having me on, and it offers me some hope and encouragement for the drive home and for the rest of this primary season. So, thanks again.
Well, and thank you, Charlie. Doing a great job. And we are going to continue to be talking about JD. One of the things we can do, Jennifer and Dan and Glenn and I can do, is be talking about him on here. And we do. We mention JD quite often. Are going to continue to do that. Are going to continue to give him as much help and Charlie as much help as we can to get this over the hump. We need this. This is just one of those elections these campaigns, we need to win. And I think we're going to do it. Jennifer and Glenn, yesterday on Conover U, I told Rodney Lee Conover, this Republican primary season, which we fought up until 6-9 months ago, was going to be boring. It was going to be a story about Jeb Bush and a bunch of candidates tearing each other apart. And when we got to the end, we were going to end up with Jeb Bush, and we were going to end up with Hillary, and a choice between two going backwards. And this primary season, not only at the presidential level, but some other levels as well. And J.D. Wintereg is one of those levels. And that of course, Boehner leaving changed a lot of things. I really kind of wish Boehner had stayed in there. I would have loved to have beat him. That would have been my preference. Beat him at the ballot box. But we've all got different things, excuse me. We've all got different things going on in our states. And we've got the presidential election that is just this presidential primary. What I told Rodney Lee Conover was, for a political junkie, this is heroin, high-grade heroin. And I'm going to tell you, there are so many aspects to what we have seen occur over the last 9 months as we have entered into the primary season. Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, all the different the things that went on in the debates, just this whole thing. It is coming out as we go into the actual primaries. It is coming out totally different than we ever expected. I didn't hear anybody a year ago predicting where we would be today. Donald Trump's changed a lot of that. I think Charlie's got it right. I think not only is it Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump's just got really good timing. I think that the electorate is anti-establishment right now, and the poll numbers are showing that. You got a few establishment candidates. Excuse me, I've got something. You got a few establishment candidates, and they've got nothing. It's like 85% of the vote is being held by anti-establishment candidates. And there's a lot we could talk. We've talked Donald Trump until we're blue in the face. There's things going on there. We've got Ted Cruz, who, love him or not, is far from an establishment candidate. He is a conservative candidate. He's a very qualified candidate. He's looking good going forward. Donald Trump he's definitely not an establishment candidate. You might have some issues with things he's said and done in the past, but he is definitely not going to be a John Boehner. He's definitely not going to be a Jeb Bush. It's just we're ending up with something very different. I happen to think that it is well organized as to why we are here. But I want to leave that on a side for a while, and I want us to look at, how did we get here? There's so many pieces to this. We've got a Jeb Bush, who we were told for years that he was going to be the candidate. He was going to be in the general election. He's sitting at an average, folks, of like 4%. We had Ben Carson, who is so very calm-spoken. Ben Carson is the anti-Scott because Ben Carson. Scott couldn't talk like that for more than 3 seconds. Could I talk like that? But man, he's if you've seen what he's done, of course, he had a grassroots team. He had an incredible grassroots team like we've been talking about. Has had it for a long, long time, Ben Carson. Carly Fiorina, the one that's really surprised me. You've got Carly Fiorina is the only woman who has an opportunity to go up against the first woman to run for president, Hillary Clinton. She's sitting at like 2%. I would think that just people that go, we've got to have a woman to go against Hillary Clinton, which I don't agree with, but I would think that there would be more than just 2% of that. But you've got Carly Fiorina. There's something really weird going on over there. She has no grassroots campaign to start off with, but she should be higher than she is. And then you got some of these other guys that just haven't taken anywhere. And then you got Rand Paul. And you know, Ron Paul, man, he had a solid 10%. In the polls last time around, all the way through the primary. He held on to his group of supporters. And Rand Paul basically has thrown all that away. He wasted his father's inheritance. He's down at under 2%. Can't even be on the big boy stage at the next debate. It's just been, Jennifer and Glenn, it has been, it has been for us political junkies, it is like straight, hard heroin at this point, and it's going to get even better. We're not going to see the same outcome, and it's fascinating. It's incredible. There's so many pieces. So, Jennifer, I want to pass it to you for kind of that discussion. What are your thoughts on all of this, where we're at right now? Who would you have ever thought we'd be sitting where Ted Cruz was so far out ahead, Donald Trump so far out ahead, and everybody else so far behind that it looks like it could be a good sprint to the end?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. And I think what's resonating is people have finally said, I've had enough. You've got people that don't know who's who, but they're just saying that hope and change was not what I thought I was going to get. You know, we definitely got to change, but we're losing hope, and everything's falling downhill. I didn't watch the State of the Union address by our divider-in-chief, but, you know, I'll tell you, when Congressman Steve King walked out, and then, you know, he went into a place to go pray for the unborn. I mean, my hat's off to him. You know, people are just finally, they said, I've had enough. You're seeing that in Oregon with, you know, the Bundys that have done their part. But we're seeing it when you look at the video of volunteers supporting Donald Trump. And they say that I'm switching my vote for the first time. I'm going to vote Republican this year so I can vote for that man. We're seeing that, you know, people have had enough of the Bushes. They look at, you know, what he has done, you know, and then the shenanigans that Chris Christie has pulled, of course. You know, people are looking for solid conservatives. Ted Cruz is up there with a solid, well-oiled machine, grassroots ground game. You know, it's the first time they've ever, you know, rented out an apartment complex in Iowa to ensure that volunteers have a place to go and can be boots on the ground all over the state. It's fabulous. You know, who would have thought? And you know, I think with our failed, you know, economy, we seem to be supportive. At least our divider-in-chief has got more money to spend to ensure that our immigrants coming in, our refugees coming in, get, you know, and our illegal immigrants, you know, they get taken care of, but our veterans are being totally ignored. So I mean, it's become, you're seeing it all over the place, and you know, this insurgents to take away our Second Amendment rights, and people have said, you know, it's my right to own whatever I want to. Should I have 15 of this or 16 of that, or should I have, you know, an AR-15? The Second Amendment in the Constitution says I can have what I want. You know, don't be dictating to me. And so in our health care, you know, people are starting to find out when they first signed up for Obamacare that it was going to be, you know, the best thing since sliced bread because everybody's going to get something. But I can tell you that we have an administration that is determined to put all the good law-abiding citizens in America on the plantation. What is it? We've had statistics say that we've had the largest group of citizens on, you know, government assistance than we've ever had, you know, and what does that do? I mean, that makes people complacent. They have no desire to want to go and strive on their own to get their own jobs and do what they can for themselves. You know, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You know, I understand, you know, when Trump says he wants to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. People understand simplicity. Just get it done. And that's what he says he's going to do. People want to hear those kinds of things. We're not looking for compromise with immigration. You come here the right way. You get in here in a timely manner. It shouldn't have to take 20 to 30 years for it to happen. You know, if you come and do it the right way, there is efficiency. And, you know, with that, I'll pass it over to Glenn.
Well, you're exactly right on everything, Jennifer. And, you know, 7 years ago when, or a little over 7 years ago when Obama was voted in, he was voted in on this campaign of hope and change. And, of course, most of us, seen that it was a farce and everything. But, the thing is where Donald Trump, his slogan is Make America Great Again. And, he also takes on that hope and change. And he's already, the thing is, he's already showing that. He's already showing there's hope, and he's already showing a lot of change. Whereas, back last, say, March, April, May, whatever, we were looking forward to a kind of a, same old kind of a, like you were saying, Scott, it was not going to be very exciting. But when he threw his hat in the mix in June 16th, a lot of people, within a couple of weeks, that's probably the first day, but within a couple of weeks, they were seeing a lot of hope, and they were seeing the change that he's made, that Obama promised. Of course, Obama promised change, and he changed it all right to the worst, but not what he implied. But this change that Donald Trump has made with the people turning, like Jennifer mentioned, also with Democrats are coming over to the conservative side because of Donald Trump. The people that are the silent majority are pretty much silent no more. And then you get the whole Republican, the whole GOP. He's upset the whole apple cart with hope, because his change is scaring them. He's got them feared, and that's good. And we haven't seen that in a long time. And he does resemble a Reagan in a lot of ways, because no one expected and ever even thought that Reagan would even have a chance either. And once he got in, he proved that he was conservative, and he could make some great changes to the better for this country, which made great changes for the world. It can go on and on about what Reagan did. No one's perfect. Donald Trump is by far perfect. Neither is any one of us. At the same time, he has said he's going to make America great again, and you know what? He's already done it. He's already started it. He started it from day one since June 16th. And people, obviously he has, because look at the change he's made in the people of how they're seeing this. The people are excited. We're excited. And that's the thing, is he's giving America hope again. He's given the real hope and change. You know what? Every one of these candidates that are in the GOP race right now, if you could just see, if you could be a fly in the inside of their mind, if you could just, that they agree to a certain degree that he is making a big difference. But they don't like it. They don't like the change that he's making, because he's exposing everyone at the same time. He's got so many layers, and Scott, you've mentioned this many times. He's like the CEO, and you know what? This country, that's what a president does, is keep this country safe and secure, and he's the CEO. And that's what he's good at. He's been doing this for 35 years or more than that actually, and he's proven it with himself, what he's done for his own company. And he's got great kids involved, and now they're working it for him. This guy has got his hand in so many different things, and he's turned everything into gold. And and he's making even Ted Cruz a better candidate. Also, he's making everybody, he's upping the game. So his hope and his change that Obama promised, we're just getting it 8 years later. But we're getting the real hope and the real change, and we're getting it already, because he's making people honest, because he doesn't care about political correctness. He doesn't have to worry about the lobbyists and the special interest people. They mean nothing to him. He knows how that game works better than anybody, and that's the thing. He's got so much knowledge and so much experience, and he's older, but he's one of these people that has such a strong influence on people and waking people up, and the establishment people do not like it, because he's wrecking their game, and all it is a game to them. It's a control game and a money game, and he's saying, I got all my money, I don't need that, I'll work for free. Who says that? That's the thing. It's all on every level, from kids to the elderly. We even got Phyllis Schlafly, Queen Conservative, the conservative female of all time. She's backing him up. And when you got someone like that's endorsing Donald Trump, that has, that many years behind her, and the stuff that she's taken and started herself. You get someone like that endorsing a Donald Trump, eyes have to be open now. They have to be open, because that's an incredible accomplishment right there, to know that she is actually endorsing Donald Trump. The game has changed, folks, since June 16th of last year. The game has changed, and it's no longer a game, though. It's actually serious business, and he's working for we the people. And that's why him and Ted Cruz are getting along so well, because they're united, because that's the only way that they can show two things: that we can defeat the establishment, so they're not getting involved, and that we can reunite the people, we the people, and show that we don't have to be these control freaks out there and spending crazy and doing whatever that's going to actually for themselves. They're doing this for we the people, and therefore that's what's now in the next few weeks. You're going to see people dropping like flies. I can see this. I can even see maybe even a couple going before Iowa. But I know after Iowa, you're going to get down to 5 or 6. I can see it happening. And good, because they're so far ahead of everybody that it's time for people to drop out. These 1%, 2%, 3%, and 4% from Jeb Bush and all the way down. They need to be gone, because they're just a pain. They're just around, and they're wasting people's money and time and whatever. So on that note, that's why I'm excited, because I see hope and I see change, and I see America being great again already.
Well, exactly, Glenn. And I'll tell you, I agree with you 100%. I think we're going to start watching them drop like flies. The next few weeks, and this is why I brought this subject up, the next few weeks, the next about 6-7 weeks is going to be the most fascinating roller coaster ride of the primary season. In 7 weeks, we'll be past that March 1st primary, which includes 15 states. At that point, we'll have 19 states down, and that's a lot of states. And Texas is included in that as well. Florida's way far at the end, which might just kind of help Jeb Bush out a little bit, but I really don't think. I think Jeb Bush is out not too long after Iowa, depending on what he comes in. If Jeb Bush comes as low as I really think he's going to come, I think he leaves after Iowa. I really expect any day for Rand Paul to drop out of the race. And if not before this next debate, right after. Rand Paul is furious that he doesn't get to be up on that big stage, and he is being a baby about it. You don't have a full number.
The kitty table.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm glad the next debate.
That's right. He's had this bad attitude anyways, and I like Rand Paul. I've supported Rand Paul in a lot of things he did. When he was up there with Ted Cruz, reading Green Eggs and Ham, I was behind. In fact, I stand with Rand. But man, he's a whiny baby. He's not his dad. He is far from his dad. And I expect him any day. I don't think he wants to go through the political discussion of him not being at the debate. So I'm really tempted to say I think he's going to drop out before the debate. He knows he can't go anywhere from here. He knows he's done. He knows he's toast. It's just how long do you want to continue to prolong the agony? I really think Jeb Bush is another one that could really drop out at any point. Jeb knows that he really doesn't have much of a chance to go anywhere, but I think he drops out after Iowa unless he can pull in maybe even a fourth-place win and show that he's still up there towards above everybody, all the sediment. I think Ben Carson, who's back down at he's hovering around 9-10%. I've always said when he took his drop that he would never drop below about 10%, 9%, 8%. I think he'll hold on to what he's got, but it's not enough to win him anything. He'll go through the primary season like Rand Paul. He's not too stupid to continue the race out. He's got the money coming in. It is great experience, even if you're not going to win. you continue to get your message out. Ben Carson's one that could just, continue to run. But Huckabee's already said that if he doesn't come in first place in Iowa, he's out. Looking forward to that one going.
Well, I think Scott dropped again.
Yeah.
He'll
I thought it
call
was
back
me.
in. He'll call back in.
Oh gosh.
But he's right. I mean, we're seeing momentum build right now, and we've already seen a couple of the candidates that have been moved down to the kiddie table, 6 o'clock slot for the next primary, and and the one candidate they thought would not this long, Donald J. Trump, and it's interesting what Cruz has been able to do, building his momentum. A strategy to just kind of keep it, it's like the little engine that could, and he just keeps chugging along, and everywhere he goes, he keeps picking up volunteers and building momentum, and so many people now are switching who they support. There's been more endorsements of people that have switched over from other candidates to Ted Cruz. So it's going to be definitely this is going to be a definite interesting race. I think what we're going to need to be really concerned about is the low information voters on the left. It's because when you think about what our divider in chief has done, these are the people that voted twice for this person. Now you've got people that are saying that they're going to either vote for Hillary or they're going to vote for Sanders. Progressive, more progressive, take your pick, and, we've already, we elected the Chicago Mafia into the White House twice. And, last time everybody stayed home, which we can't have that happen again this time.
No.
So when I see these, man on the street reporters, they go out and they ask people around these college campuses, about just crazy off-the-wall questions to people, and they want to sound so well-informed, and for those of us who know the drill, I mean, it's ridiculous. But, I mean, I actually was at lunch with a friend of mine recently. We talked to a waiter who said, we were asking, who are you voting for? Bernie Sanders. And that's scary to me because, I mean, a vote for Bernie Sanders is just like voting for Hitler to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's I mean, that's scary. So, and so our divider in chief, he knows he's fixing to go out. So he's doing all he can to go out with a bang and do all the craziest things that he can do, to really shake us up. And so, what's the kind of legacy he's going to leave? He tore this country apart, divider in chief. So then we've got to contend with, a woman who, is ruthless, hates the men in blue, can't stand anybody in authority of police officers or sheriffs, and you've got, and now I understand she's starting to bring, Bill on the campaign trail with her, and stuff, and I really loved it when they called him out, talking to her about his infidelity and all the trysts that he's had over the years. She didn't want to address any of those issues, But, I mean, she's gotten people thinking, oh, she's a victim. They're out to get me. I didn't really do anything wrong. Emails, Benghazi, all that stuff. But you can't avoid the fact, that her hubby, and all the things he did with, drug use and so many other things, and he's still, I mean, they're still together. I mean, it's a team effort. It's a mafia team effort.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Glenn?
Oh, you're right. With all these things that are coming at Hillary right now, there's a lot of people that have written books and a lot of people that are throwing the truth at her, and she's, and it's fair game. She opened up how silly of her, how stupid of her to open up to Donald Trump and talk about him being womanizing it or whatever have you, and all he had to do was fire it back at her, and then she just opened up the floodgates. And you think she would have learned by what other people went through when they started accusing or throwing things at Donald Trump. He comes back 5 times as much, and they haven't even started at her yet. They really haven't. There's just been some things coming out, but and she keeps it going on, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how stupid can you be? Because she's going to go down with this, and whether it be through the FBI, there's more emails. Just yesterday or day before, I guess it was, there was more emails that they're even questioning now. So the iron's getting hotter against her, and with her, Bill Clinton's past and that. Yeah, it's fair game to bring him in because she's bringing him into to help her with her campaign, and I mean she's the one that covered up for him. So therefore, we get these people that are like 20 or 30 years old. These people that are going to be voting now, they weren't even around back then when that was happening, or at least I should say maybe they were 5 or 10 years old the most. So they would never have known. So this is all stuff that's from the past. But it's relevant because it has a lot to do with how honest or dishonest, I should say, they are, and I mean a lot of legal issues that they've that we've had to exploit with them. So with all that being said, she's opened up. She kicked the door wide open is what she did for Donald Trump to start this, and then. And once they get over these through the nomination for the GOP, and if she's the one that's in there, if the FBI hasn't thrown her in jail by then, if she's the nominee for the Democrats, then I just can't see her making it. Because a lot of eyes are opening already. Donald Trump has taken a lot of these people from the Democrats and brought them over, because of his history and everything, and how he speaks the truth and no political correctness. And you put that inside with that majority, that silent majority, and also these people that don't even know much about the past. It's leaking out now, and all these people, they're going to be starting to change. I don't mean all, but I mean way more than enough will be changing. So that's why I think you're hearing more of good old Uncle Joe. Biden, saying that he, kind of might have made a mistake by not being a candidate. Whether he may come back into it in the mix or whatever, if things get too far between Hillary and Sanders, as far as the numbers go, he might come in, or they may have someone else. I can't see them just resting with who they've got right there, because I just think myself that she's in a lot more trouble. With the people, not just with the legal part of it all, but the people, yourself that even with the Michael Jackson situation, when, whether he was right or he was wrong, he was so tarred and feathered before he got to a point where a lot of people just, they just didn't believe that, they didn't care. They wouldn't support him and whatever. They turned on him, a lot of people. And, and it's going to be even worse for Hillary, because, this is someone that's going to be the commander-in-chief for the, the highest position of the world for leadership. And, this is serious business. And I think that the people that are the youth vote, that's why I was saying that, Charlie, it was so important that he's involved and showing, with his age, for other people that, that kind of an influence sets an example for people like her to, be exposed in that too, because they need to know, these young voters, that they need to know. And unfortunately, a lot of these young voters are actually taking the side of Bernie Sanders for the Democrat side anyway, what I'm seeing anyway. So I think once this comes out even more and more, I think you're going to find that more and more people are going to be drawn over, and it's exciting. But I just think that and her health, and Bill Clinton's health, they're not in great health. So they got that to contend with too. So things are leaking out about their health, and especially hers. So she's got so much things coming at her, and it's going to be exposed in the right time. I think people have a lot more knowledge of things that we don't even know about yet, but they're waiting for the right time to expose them even more. because if they give all at once, then that's they want to just kind of have it a slow death, I guess. And so I can see that coming to pass as soon as we get to the nominations, for who's nominating for the Republican side. We'll get more of the fire heated up with that. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Glenn. Scott, were you able to make it back? No.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's interesting. We got a Senate race going on down here, and the incumbent Richard Shelby has just been in that office for forever. And this is his last time to run. This is his last time to run, and so there's a couple of candidates running against him that, but there's one particular candidate that's like a really good, solid Christian conservative, Reagan conservative guy that's starting to really, be like a Dave Brat and give this guy, because Senator Shelby's got a lot of money, but, this is the man who went out and helped contributed to Thad Cochran's campaign in Mississippi, and so you have to wonder why. But I guess, you've been in office for so long, you're going to support the people that you've been friends with and known for so long. But my thing is, when you start going, off the Constitution and start, voting against the Constitution, not voting your values as a conservative, then I have an issue with that. But, Shelby's been doing quite well for the last couple of years, but if you always got to take a look at, right now it seems like we've got so many people that are just tired of the same old establishment. They're wanting something new and fresh. I want to be able to see our schools, when it comes to patriotic, days like Labor Day, when we have 4th of July and stuff, I remember bicentennial year of 1976. We had a big, huge blowout. We had a play at middle school, and there's so many people doing so many things to celebrate the bicentennial year for America and the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and now what do we see? People burning the flag, stepping up the flag, trying to remove history. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And, something's got to give. Things have to change. It's it's not what it used to be, and now is the time, to do something different. If you don't like what you see going on in your community, register to vote. Make sure you vote. Do what you need to do, and get out there in the primary and do all you can for your candidate. But in the general election, go vote. Don't stay at home, because the Republican candidate that won the nominee is not the person that you supported. We need all hands on deck here, and I really hope that we get this absentee voting under control, especially with our military, because it just seems like, last time it was such a shambles, and you have to wonder if some of that was deliberately delayed. So it's, we are at almost 10 minutes to the hour, at the top of the hour, and so with that, I think Scott may be back online now. Are you there, Scott?
I am back online. I don't know how long I talked and didn't realize that I was disconnected. I wasn't disconnected on my board.
No.
When I stopped, nobody was there. What's that?
We jumped in and saved the day.
Well, I knew you would when I realized that I wasn't getting any response. That's one of those problems, boy, with Blog Talk Radio. Happens every once in a while, but we have to give them credit. They really do a very good job. Anyways, we're up at the last 10 minutes, guys. I don't know where the time has gone tonight, but it was a great show. Really a lot of respect for Charlie Miller. quite a young man, definitely. And, of course, we love JD. Want to remind everybody to go and get involved. It is so important. We got a lot of great things going on Contending for Truth Radio. You got guests starting to line up out there, Dan. Oh, Dan's not with us. Dan's got guests lined up. Glenn's with us. Glenn, you guys have got guests lined up over there with Saturday Symposium for the next 2 weeks, don't you?
Yeah, actually we do. Well, I got one guy that I'm waiting for confirmation. He's close to us, Scott. He's over in Plano here, and he's his name's Wayne Richard, and he used to have a radio show himself for a few years, and I thought he still had it, but he didn't. But we got talking and yesterday on the phone and whatnot, and he'll jump right in with like us. He's just one of us. He's a real grassroots kind of a guy and that, and he's amazing knowledge and background and whatnot. So I believe he has an internet company or whatever is what he has for his business, but he's quite the conservative. I'm telling you, he's backing Trump and Cruz, and he doesn't want anything to do with this establishment. So he'll fit right in with us in discussion. So I'm looking forward to confirmation of him for I believe the 23rd of this month. And there's who else they have? Oh, they have Gary Rumor has someone coming in, and her name's Tammy Locke. She's we got talking a couple weeks ago about how the old TV shows, the I Love Lucy's and whatnot, how they were so instrumental, and how we need to get back to having that kind of for our children. That so this woman that's coming on this Saturday, I believe it is. Her name's Tammy Locke, and she was with I think it was a show. It was like black and white. It's from a long time ago, and it's from the Monroes. She was like an 8-year-old or whatever in the show, and it's kind of a real family type show. So we're looking forward to having her on as well.
Well, very cool. I will have to let my aunt really loved the Monroes, so I will have to let her know that. You guys are doing a great job over there. Dan and I did that for so long. And I really, I needed my Saturdays back. Saturdays are hard. It's the only day that I've got my sister's home, that we don't have church and stuff, that we can, her and I can actually get some things done sometimes. It's the day that I can take and run and go and do things and take the kids and do things. And you and Gary and Dan are running with that show, doing a great job, Glenn. I get to listen. A lot of times I'll turn it on and I'll be listening in the background. But we're having some great times over there on Saturday Symposium, folks. You don't want to forget to join them over there at, what time, 11:30 Texas time.
11 to 1.
Oh, 11 o'clock Texas time. 12 o'clock Eastern time, and that's 9 o'clock California time. So you guys want to join them over there. We got some great things coming up here on Contending for Truth Radio on American Sovereignty as well. We're going to have JD in a couple of weeks. Got him coming up. We've got some other people that are lined up. We just don't have them scheduled yet. And the same thing with Conor Ryu. Still working on quite a few good people to come on and just chat with us a little bit of politics. So I'm going to pass it back around the room one more time. Jennifer, Glenn, any last things you got to say?
Well, I just say it's been a good show tonight. I'm looking forward to the up-and-coming shows. We've got some pretty good guests lined up, and you'll be hearing about some of these to be announced real soon. And but yeah, I just think we've got to get more engaged than what we are. Encourage your friends. Get out there and encourage your friends to make sure they're registered to vote. And if they don't know where to go, do what you can to try to help educate them. And let's turn this out for 2016 and win this thing. We've got to. Glenn?
Oh, I agree. You're exactly right about that. It was great having Charlie on the show, and looking forward to JD Winter Egg coming on in a couple weeks. It's exciting. We're getting down to crunch time, and it's exciting all around. And yes, as you said, Jennifer, we need people getting involved. Folks out there, they're listening. Get everybody involved. At any age. now is the time to do it, because it's an exciting time to even know that you're part of it, that you can look back 20 or 30 years from now, and you can say to your kids or your grandkids that, that we were a part of helping change this country around, back the way, it was before, and maybe even better. I mean, who knows, just keep plugging away at it. And but first and foremost, we need to get back to God. We need to bring God back into everything, and that's the only thing that keeps us straight and narrow. So with that, I'll hand it over to Scott.
Well, and exactly, and I want to thank everybody. We have a great team here, and we're going into a new year, looking forward to a lot of fun times on Blog Talk. One thing about Blog Talk, you, the listener, get to listen to us, bloviate on what we think. Throw out our opinions out there, and sometimes listen and get the chance to interact with a guest. But what we get out of this is our gathering time each week. And it's a time when Jennifer and Glenn and Dan and I and Rodney and all the different shows that we do, a time to get together and be a little family. I often think, and we're going to have here soon, we're going to have Stephen Williams on as a guest. I just need to sit down with him and peg down a time. But Stephen Williams, you might remember, in my early days of Blog Talk Radio, was our main host of Kane Coast to Coast, which as soon as Herman Cain left, we continued the show and turned it into Conservatives Coast to Coast. And it went on for, 3 years, I do believe, after Herman Cain left. And every Friday night, we got on and talked politics. John Grooms, Stephen Williams, and Bob Green. My good friend Michael Smith, who, Jennifer, by the way, I just noticed has reappeared on Facebook. So I'm going to have to give him a little chat. But anyways, different people all connected there on Contending for Truth on Conservatives Coast to Coast. Had some great times, and one of the things I miss out of that was we just got to chat each week, got to spend time with each other, camaraderie, and these important things. So one of the reasons why we do it and why we keep on keeping on, we're not going to play a whole lot of extra tonight. My voice is gone, if you can't tell. The sickness has been going around the household here. We'll just say that. So with that, we're going to put us out with some applause. And until the next show, thank you, and keep on keeping on.
Here's a tale of two students, both working adults. He commutes to college before and after work, carrying all the baggage that goes with it. She goes to Independence University, and Independence University goes with her. It's online, so all she needs is a connection, and anywhere becomes her campus. He's getting a degree, but he's also getting majorly stressed out. She chose Independence University online for a better life offline. Visit independence.edu or call 800-370-1077 today.